It is hard to believe it has been 1 year. The storms of April 28, 2014 have left a lasting imprint on our communities.
Our guests this evening from Louisville, Mayor Will Hill, and from Smithville, Mayor Greg Kennedy, and Don Lewis from Tupelo, COO there, and of course Lowndes County Supervisor Harry Sanders.
For days, our meteorologists had warned us of the severe weather that was on the horizon, tracking every deadly storm through Arkansas. Emergency management teams worked with law enforcement, school administrators started sending students and teachers home for that day.
And by 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, we got the first tornado warning. The first big storm of the day moved into Tupelo and to the northeast and into parts of Etowah County. And Don, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier, and this storm came out of Pontotoc, and you knew it was coming, but what was kind of the preparation? What was going on? What were the thoughts of city leaders at that point in time?
Well, the one thing that we had led up to is preparation. We had started working on our emergency plan months ago. Once that was one of the directives when I came on board working with Mayor Shelton, was to start looking at the emergency plan. On Monday morning, of course, because of your help and other agencies, people were weather conscious. So that was a great thing. Everybody was weather conscious, so we were watching that. At 9:30 that morning, we decided to have a practice drill. So because we knew the weather was looking bad, so we went through a practice drill, called a complete turnout of all personnel, department heads at the fire station, and everything went pretty smooth. So that's how we started out today.
And the thing with those practice drills is you always do them never thinking that this will ever come to fruition, and hoping.
That's what we were hoping. Always wanted to be prepared, make sure we've got everything in place. We had been through other issues before, but this was one where all the departments would have to come together, and we wanted to see how that worked.
Mayor Hill, within that the next hour, you know, there's this gigantic supercell we see heading your direction. What's going through your mind? What's going on in Winston and Louisville at that time?
Well, just as you just said, you never really think it's going to happen to you, and historically our storms coming into our area either miss us by going north or going south, and typically the storms track east or northeast, not directly north as it did in our case, and we knew that there was a tornado in the ground in Winston County, assuming maybe it was going easterly towards Noxapater or even by way of Macon. So it didn't take very long to realize by all the warnings, and again, everybody was so attentive. You can't say enough about the efforts by, again, local meteorologists, but all weekend, the sensitive nature of the storms, the threat, schools letting out early, and just these devices that we hold in our hands, people warning each other, and that's literally how most people found out. The sirens were off, radios were alarming, TV was there, but people looking out for each other saying, take cover, it's coming your way.
Harry, you probably saw what was going on in Tupelo. That same storm that moved out of Winston County came here, produced 5 tornadoes in Lowndes County. What were your thoughts, you know, as you kind of prepared for that storm to arrive here?
Well, there's first off, there's no way that you can prepare totally for something like this.
Sure,
It's just devastating. But just like what's happened in Tupelo, we had our meetings at emergency management with all the first responders there. The road department had every single thing ready to go, and of course we watched the TV and the National Weather Service, and as it tracked this way, we knew something was happening. And is when it hit down there in Crawford first with a little small tornado that hit the ground and stayed on the ground about 5/10 of a mile or so. Told everybody or warned everybody that here she comes. And then another one that came up Artesia Road there for the second one. And at 5:30, it's about the time that it came, and so people were on their way home, or people were at home already, and school had it already out, and people had fair warning of what's getting ready to happen. We were very, very fortunate that with 5 tornadoes hitting Lowndes County, and one of them staying on the ground for almost 10 miles with a 300-yard wide path at 130-mile-an-hour winds, and we had no injuries and no fatalities because I think most everybody was prepared.
Mayor Kennedy, we want to bring you in on the conversation. We're going to take a quick break because you had not too far in your memory a very devastating tornado. We'll get to that when we come back. Stay with us, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody. This is a roundtable to recovery, a look at the past year since a devastating tornado outbreak hit North Mississippi.
Turn our attention now to Mayor Kennedy from Smithville. You obviously can remember, after having yourself gone through a very devastating storm, you were one of the very first people to call Mayor Will Hill. What did you say to him?
How's it going, Mayor? You know, been there, done that. Knew exactly what friends in Tupelo and Louisville was going through at the time. I remember last year very well. You know, the Sunday before these tornadoes hit, Governor Bryant, Miss Bryant, Congressman Nunley, and all the dignitaries was at our city hall. We had a ribbon cutting on our city hall.
And then this happened.
Right, and we knew it was coming because during that ceremony, Governor Bryant had to get away from all the picture taking and everything, going to my office.
You knew it was a serious
It
situation.
was a serious situation.
Do you find, though, that the people there in Smithville now, after having gone through what you went through, them watching our neighbors in Tupelo and Louisville and Lowndes County go through what they went through, does everybody now just get really fearful when we hear about approaching storms, no matter how big or small now?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The way we got it worked out, our dome gymnasium, when school's not in session and I don't have a full-time police officer on duty 1 o'clock in the morning, it's my responsibility to unlock that storm shelter. We got a safe room inside our new city hall. People were stopping on Highway 25 coming into City Hall to get in the safe room.
Everybody's weather aware.
Everybody is weather aware.
Don, we talk about Tupelo and, you know, right there along Gloucester, a lot of businesses, area, neighborhoods as well, all damaged. And, you know, the community really came out in force right away. I think that was one thing. And then the organization started showing up. Kind of talk about the volunteers and you know, just neighbors helping neighbors, how that really started that rebuilding process so quickly.
Well, the one thing that happened immediately once it hit, we had the search and rescue started between the police department, fire and rescue. But the other thing is, just like you said, neighbors started checking on neighbors. As soon as they knew where their people were at, their family was safe, then they were out checking the other families and getting next door to check. There were several neighborhoods that were hit hard, and they were right there and have been there the whole step of the way to recover. United Way played a big role. Red Cross, United Way came in, and the amount of volunteerism was so much that we had to set up a separate place at CVB, Convention Visitors Bureau, and United Way helped us manage all of that.
What a good problem to have.
It was a great problem. And then finishing it up toward the end of it, or not toward the end, but in a big way, was 8 Days of Hope. 8 Days of Hope brought in over 3,000 volunteers. 2,000 of them were there for a whole week.
Amazing.
So the turnout was amazing, not only there, but for Itawamba County, and I know that for Mayor Hill.
When we talk about neighbors helping neighbors and people just checking on, there was a similar situation in Lowndes County also. That's what we saw.
Especially out there. I've been around Tabernacle and Pleasant Hill.
See, the city of Columbus got hit just like the county did. So we had the Red Cross opened a center up at the Southside Baptist Church. But I'll tell you, the unsung heroes, I guess, in something like this was the Salvation Army came and they fed hot meals to everybody at all the locations. And then the Red Cross was doing it. But the road department was out there for all night long. And then neighbors, like you said, it's just amazing what the church volunteers would do. The Mennonite church was up here the next day, and they just come in and don't even ask questions. They just get in there and do the job, start the job, and then they leave, and you don't even know who to thank.
And you don't
really.
Exactly, you don't get the chance to thank.
But it's unreal.
Yeah, and Mayor Hill, I was going to ask you, I mean, obviously, many volunteers, there's still home openings and dedications going on in Louisville.
We love those, by the way.
We do.
They're great to celebrate.
They are.
You know, as it's been said, just in recounting so many memories as we just sit here and talk, and you can relive all of it. And there's really no way, and we've said this for months, how we would ever be able to say thank you enough we've realized, like for instance, in my newfound relationship with Mayor Kennedy, is that our responsibility now is to pay it forward, and that's what we plan to do. Is and to a degree, our community's done that. Even when we're still struggling severely, there was an outpouring of support given to Columbia. That just shows, and I think our community will forever be stronger because of this. We'll always be, very mindful of the struggles elsewhere, because we pride ourselves on hopefully being a community to help anyway. But yet to say thank you, we'd never be able to say it adequately enough or enough to all those who helped. But just like the other communities, we were able to stage at one place in Louisville, but remembering that it was 34 miles long, so it covered the entire county.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to our Roundtable to Recovery.
We're going to bring this conversation now to the here and now. If you will talk to us just a moment, Don, about where Tupelo is now in recovery. And I know it's an ongoing process.
It is. It's a continuing process, but the neighborhoods have all done well. They're almost all of the homes. I think we had one today that finally sold that was having some difficulty with insurance, but almost everybody else has either started repaired or back in their houses. So it's been an ongoing process, but it's worked rather well. From the city perspective, we're looking at a citywide tree plan. We're looking at drainage plans. We're looking at a lot of different plans that will start rolling out in 2015, hopefully when the weather clears a little bit.
Yes, all right.
And Harry, we talked about Lowndes County. I know earlier we mentioned the Tabernacle Road area, Pleasant Hill. Those seem to be the hardest hit areas. How's recovery along in those areas and other places
Well,
hit?
the New Hope area and the Tabernacle Road area were the hardest hit. There were, I think, 115 damaged houses, and I think 10 totally were destroyed. 12 mobile homes destroyed and 2 churches destroyed. In the recovery center that we had at the New Hope Community Center that FEMA staffed and everything, they asked people to come in and that needed some help, and they had almost $380,000 worth of money that they spent to temporarily house the people until they got their houses complete. Most all of those folks are back in their house, and the house is completed and fixed. A lot of people took advantage of this catastrophe to upgrade and build another room on the house, or build their garage, or build a deck or something like that while they had their contractor there.
Mayor Kennedy, in your town, really, everything was gone. It almost felt like Smithville had been wiped off the map, but as you look back now, you've got offices that have been rebuilt, things are coming back open, sales tax is coming back in. So how are things now in Smithville?
It's still slow. What we're seeing now is a lot of the properties that are vacant, they're actually changing hands now, selling, and we've got new homes starting. We got some that the weather ever break plan to start. It's been a tough ride. But you go back and look, it's only been 4 years for us. It took us 160 years to get where we was at that day, and it got taken away in 10 seconds. Our biggest issue right now is a grocery store.
You're tired of driving to Aberdeen to get your groceries.
It's either Amory or Fulton.
Yeah, okay.
And the people who work travel that every day. But it's the retired people who stays in town all day that it's really putting a crutch on.
Well, it's something to think about.
It definitely is one of those things you don't think about. And Will, we talk about Louisville, and you're beginning to see a bit of recovery when you take a look at the plywood mill and the hospital taking shape as well.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of new normal already in our community, and I've said this a lot for the past year, is that there's so much opportunity before us, and I never say this wanting to make light of for the lives that were lost. There's 10 fatalities in our town, so I never want to say that this was a great moment for our community. It certainly wasn't, but you can't undo what was done. So we have to seize the moment. We have to seize this opportunity, and I can honestly say that I'm not I don't know that I've ever been as optimistic about our future. Now, as far as timeline goes, I'm going to push, and I'm going to push very hard in every which way I can that we move as fast as possible. We're under construction with a plywood facility. I mean, we lost over 1 million square feet of industrial space within our city, county-owned, city-owned, and privately held. We have great plans for the return of our health care in our community. I'm excited about that. And then that of the way our storm, the track of this storm, I mean, it did not discriminate, the haves and the have-nots. And I could never say enough about Winston Strong. We had 650 structures severely damaged, over 400 completely gone. And as of now, we've had 17 complete rebuilds through Winston Strong, which has helped those who had a major deficiency, whether it's lack of insurance or inadequate, whatever it may be. So 141 households have been helped by Winston Strong, and we're just now at 1 year. So I applaud them, and that's the community picking ourselves up by our own bootstraps.
What I'm hearing from all four of you is hope and optimism, and that's wonderful for the people in your communities. We're going to continue our conversation. You're watching Roundtable to Recovery. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our Roundtable to Recovery. Many lessons have been learned
Absolutely.
as communities have gone through this.
Let's talk about that for a minute, Mr. Lewis. What do we think communities have learned?
Well, it's a renewed spirit of cooperation. I think we're there. We're part of Lee County, Tupelo, Lee County. They exist together. And once we turned the emergency management shelter and Lee County stepped in, it was always cooperation with them. How can we help? What can we do? Where do you need help? The county was devastated too. There were certain parts of it. So
Even your neighbors there in Itawamba also.
Itawamba, we reached out, we formed a long-term recovery group that reached out to Itawamba, Lee County, Tupelo. So it was put together, and I think that spirit of cooperation.
Lots of cooperation here in Lowndes County as well, too, Harry.
Our emergency management director has everybody in for training, but the key to all of it is the 911 dispatchers. Everything has to go through 911 to dispatch everybody. And the first people that they call most of the time is the road department, because this ambulance can't get to the emergency unless the roads are clean. And our road department keeps everything. For example, they have 18 chainsaws that they keep on the shelf at all times, already gassed up. They have a policy that no vehicle, when you bring it in at night for the day, it has to be filled up with fuel.
Just always on the ready.
Always on the ready. And it's through the training and ongoing training that all the emergency responders go through.
There was preparation on every level.
Preparation on every level, and
Always important.
and I think a lot of it has to do with the experience over the last 10 years of the catastrophes and emergencies that
Here
we've
in Lowndes
had.
County, yeah.
We had the tornado at the Caledonia and the Caledonia schools, and the kids know what to do now.
Yes,
the
they do.
teachers know what to do. They were all in a safe room, and the school bus ends up on top of the building. Then we had the W that got hit with a tornado, and up Highway 50, and the straight line went. So what's happened is that through these experiences, passed it on to the next generation and the next people, so they know what to do.
Important.
So very important. And Greg, we talk about Smithville and lessons learned there, and I bet preparation is one of them, but I'm sure you've learned a few other things along the way.
Well, just like Mayor Hill and Mr. Sanders and Mr. Lewis talked about, is community coming together. Right after our tornado hit, there were so many people coming into town. We couldn't allow them to come into town because you had a National Guard with force protection. If you didn't have an ID badge, you didn't get near because we still had bodies until that hit on Wednesday till Saturday till the last body was found. Ambulances couldn't get in. Dr. Monroe, and then we had a triage center set up. We was putting victims on, doors, covering them with curtains or whatever we could do it with. The reason the ambulances couldn't get in, the roadway was cluttered up and they was having flat tires. We often think, and you probably heard me say after that, a 99-cent can of Fix-A-Flat could have saved a life. You know, because of flat tires. And little lessons like that makes us better prepared.
Mayor Hill, what, if anything, is your takeaway from this past year? I'm sure there are a lot.
There's a lot. It continues to be a steep learning curve. And I could just echo what's been said by around this table. But one thing I would like to say, you know, as being the mayor of the city of Louisville, and Louisville being the county seat of Winston County, I know I had an opportunity to be the face and the voice in the immediate aftermath and in the recovery efforts. But the true heroes are every person that was involved. And the first responders were neighbors helping neighbors, those who were trained, those who were untrained. And I personally I'm one of those who was untrained. It was a matter of react. And
you learn quickly, don't you?
You learn very quick. You also have to learn how to delegate. And there was so much going on. It was said search and rescue was priority number one. A lot of difficult decisions in the first few days. But through our emergency management program and the synergy between Winston County, City of Louisville, Town of Noxapater, again, remembering that this was 34 miles long. Louisville gets a lot of the emphasis, which it was the hub. Thankfully, our sales tax engine wasn't hit, but it was devastating as to what it did. The heroes are the other ones. I just happened to be the face and the voice. So I want to take this opportunity to applaud everyone and to the early decision makers to say, okay, how Winston Strong was to be organized, and the quick idea, hey, we have a 501c3, let's change the bylaws, let's get this thing rolling, and we did. And I think that was unprecedented is how fast it
Made
happened.
a difference.
And it was a community.
One of the things I know we've seen emerge specifically between the two of you is we have seen a brotherhood. You used the word brotherhood a few minutes ago, but a true brotherhood was born between the two of you. And I think you've got a wonderful mentor-mentee relationship going on here, huh?
I didn't ask to join that club.
I'm passing the torch.
All right.
All right, we'll be right back, everybody. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. This is a roundtable to recovery, a look at the past year since a devastating tornado outbreak hit North Mississippi.
Lives were lost, there were injuries, the winds damaged or destroyed the brick and mortar of hundreds of homes and businesses and scattered personal mementos of life before the storm for hundreds of miles.
And the rebuilding of property and the healing of hearts is happening every day. Final thoughts, Harry?
Well, first off, I hope we don't ever have to go through anything like this again. If we ever do, I hope that everybody's prepared. I think that the training that we've been going through, and I hope that the lessons that we've learned and the experiences that we have will carry everybody through it in a safe manner, in a safe way.
You know, I've had a little more time than these guys right here have for 4 years now. The one thing I have that is brought away, and I mentioned it before, it's going to take time, and it's going to take patience. Rome wasn't built overnight, and that's been one of the biggest obstacles that I've had to adjust to, because I was expecting bam, 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 let's get it rebuilt. But it don't work that way, and that's been one of the things, and we feel better prepared in Smithville now than what we were, and the Lord's good to us.
Well, definitely the Lord's good to us. And we've talked about it around the table. Everybody has echoed it. Mayor Shelton and I have talked about it. It's the team leaders, the department heads, the people that were there to help carry us through. It wasn't a one-man show. You may have been the voice, you may have been the one doing part of it, but no one person did this all.
Once again, I echo what's been said, but patience on many levels. That's one lesson I'm having to learn, as well as being sensitive to those who are still suffering from so much loss and being very mindful of that. And then dealing with others who have survivor's guilt, where you weren't hit as much personally, and coping with that, but looking for a brighter tomorrow.
The greatest lessons learned are probably some we already knew.
And with that, we will face the future together. Thank you to our guests so much for coming in and sharing your thoughts and memories with us. And thank you at home for joining us. Good night.